Ramy from Morocco, I just want to start off by saying that the anniversary show is awesome. How much of a draw was Shawn Michaels in the 90s during his title reigns? And if he wasn't, why do you think that is? When WWE did the angle in early 96, when he came back from... remember they said he had post-concussion syndrome from the Syracuse attack? He got the shit kicked out of him. He didn't actually have a concussion, so that whole thing was made up. But they brought him back, and they were hyping up his comeback at the Royal Rumble, and it did have a positive effect on business. I remember reading about that and reading about, in terms of the business that they were doing at that time, there was an uptick. So that worked. After he won the championship, there's no real evidence that he was any great draw on top as the champion. I looked up the numbers as far as pay-per-view buy rates and ticket sales, that sort of thing. 1996 really was not much of a great year for WWE. They did do 60,000 people in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio for the Royal Rumble in 97, which was in Shawn's hometown. And he challenged Sid to win back the championship. That was kind of the big thing going into the Rumble that year. So they did 60,000 people in that building, but that's very misleading because that Rumble show was severely papered, very heavily papered. So there were a lot of freebies to get people in the building. I remember reading they lowered ticket prices as a way to get more people into the building, as many as they possibly could. And they still couldn't fill it up, but they've somehow managed to get 60,000 people in there. But it would be misleading to say, oh, well, Shawn was the reason for that. Well, no, because a good part of that 60,000 probably didn't even give a shit about Shawn Michaels. They just wanted to get free tickets so they can get in the building. Or maybe they got their tickets for 10 or 20 bucks. That has nothing to do with Shawn Michaels' drawing ability in his hometown at that time. So I think there may be two reasons for this. For one thing, the NWO angle started not long after Shawn's first reign began, mid-96. Then Hogan did the turn in July. And from there, it was off to the races. The NWO angle at that time was the cool thing. People got into it. And it wasn't long before WCW became really popular and they started kicking WWF's ass. It was going to be hard, I think, for anybody to compete with. It's a little unfair to Shawn because I think anybody in that position would have been hurt by what WCW was doing. It was the cool thing. It was hard not to get intrigued and excited and interested in the NWO stuff at the very beginning. After a while, it got watered down, but in the beginning, all of my friends, even the ones who weren't WCW fans, they were totally into the NWO stuff. So that worked against him. But here's the other thing. I think you have to look at the kind of babyface that Shawn Michaels was. Okay, just look at the guy. The guy pranced around in chaps and long earrings. He wasn't exactly perceived as a tough guy. As a top babyface in the company, I don't think that works. I think there's still that mentality that a guy on top babyface who's going to draw and really be an attraction has got to be big, he's got to look tough, he's got to be all jacked up, or whatever the case may be. Austin, for his era, it worked. He was anti-authority. Austin was never this big jacked up monster the way Hulk Hogan was in the 80s. That worked for Hogan, though. Nobody will ever say that Shawn Michaels wasn't charismatic, he wasn't good on the mic, he wasn't a good wrestler. He had all those things. But he wasn't this intimidating presence. If anything, he was the opposite, because he would come out, he would dance around, and he would, all these things that I don't really know a lot of young males who necessarily were into that sort of thing. I know he had his fans. I'm not saying he didn't. But you got to look at the kind of babyface he was. He wasn't walking around like a big, tough guy. So I think all of those things worked against him, and that's probably why he never really took off as this big box office babyface.